Hi, my name is TV from Sensorica. Most of you already know me. So today we had a meeting about what we all now know under the name of the Verdun Project. Okay, and this meeting was about legal structure and governance, and the main goal was to put everybody together on the same page. So most of the people don't have an accurate um, representation, don't really know the details about the project. And now we're going through a very important phase where we have to think about the legal structure and the governance of this Verdun project. And it is very delicate because we are open communities, we are open networks, and we all have to agree. And there is no better way to set in place rules that everybody will embrace if these rules don't come from everybody's wisdom, if we don't all agree on the governance that we want to put in place. So before jumping into this discussion about rules, before talking low level about governance and legal structures, what I intended with this meeting is to have a sort of a broad, top level, general overview about what the project is, about our intentions behind the project, about the main requirements and main features that will then drive governance design and governance implementation. Okay. So we had a meeting, and there was a few sensoricans, and we discussed for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. There was nobody from WeShare, so we still have to do this meeting between Sensorica and WeShare. We have to sit together one day, because WeShare and Sensorica are very different organizations in the sense that our focus is very different. We share a lot of values. I think we have a very similar culture. I think we have a very similar vision of about the world, but the focus of our organizations are not the same. So we might see this project in a different way. We might understand governance in a different way. But since we're bound together for this project, I think we have to sit together and build some common ground. Okay, so this is what came up from our high-level meeting. We took some notes, and so this was a discussion, and my main goal was to tune into what people see when they see around the Verdun project. Okay, what is their perception? What do they understand about it? And I discovered that there was a misunderstanding, and I discovered that there was a lot of questions. And so I think we need to clear that. And in this video, I want to report to the entire community what was discussed, and to give you a sort of an overview. And you, as a listener, probably have the same questions, and I hope this will clear a little bit the fog. So we came up with a metaphor for the project. Okay. First of all, let me say this. The Verdun project is not about building a new organization. It's not about building a new co-op or a new not-for-profit or a new whatever for-profit organization. It's none of that. The Verdun project is about accelerating a process. It is about accelerating a movement. It is about fostering the collaborative economy that is already starting to emerge everywhere around the world. So we have to set up something that stimulates this development, that stimulates this movement and the development of this new economy. Now, this leads to a high-level requirement. Okay, so the idea here is to get some funding and This funding comes from the government and other institutions, and use this funding to do our job, which is to set this thing in motion. Okay, and in order to do that, we have to create a legal entity. And now the question is, what type of legal entity, and what is the role of this legal entity, and what is the legal structure, what is the governance, and how much reach will it have over what we create and in time. Okay, so the metaphor that we came up with during this discussion was that we have to build a mother organization that in the end will give birth to something, and let's call this the Verdun ecosystem, and will nurture this thing. It'll grow it until a certain point where this thing, the Verdun ecosystem, becomes mature and slowly lets it walk by itself, and in the end just let it loose, let it go. Okay, so based on this metaphor, I think we can draw some high-level requirements for this legal structure and for its governance. It is something that we create to manage the allocation of these funds in order to give birth to this thing. Okay, and once this thing is created and matured, once this thing can walk on its own, once this thing becomes sustainable, which the idea is 5 years from now, then this mother organization, its role, it's ended, it's finished. Okay, so one of these temporary legal forms that exist is called the consortium. Consortium is a legal form that wraps around a few partners that give themselves a mission in time, and then once the mission is over, the consortium can be dissolved. Okay, so this could be one type of legal structure that derives from this high-level requirement. Okay, we're not building an organization that lasts in time. We, which means Sensorica and WeShare, are trusted by our partners to apply our knowledge, our skills, our experience to stimulate the collaborative economy in Montreal by, again, using our skills. And the idea here is to create this something which is made of 5 open spaces, Fab Labs, maker spaces, a cultural space, or artistic space, a food lab, or whatever. Okay, there's a list of, I think, from 10 to 15 different types of open spaces, and we can choose 5 of those that the local community in Verdun will want. And then this is our vehicle to stimulate this collaborative economy. So we create these spaces that one day they should run themselves in a completely autonomous way. And so these spaces that are bound together by governance and by IT infrastructure, so they form an ecosystem. So we create this thing, okay, and once this thing becomes sustainable, okay, hopefully within 2, 3, 4 years, then we slowly cut the rope, let it loose, and then cut the rope. Okay, so this legal organization that we're about to create now, that will take some legal form and will have some governance. The high-level requirement is that it is not a permanent structure. Okay, we already have structures that are bound to be permanent, which is WeShare and Sensorica, and they come together within this legal structure as partners for a certain amount of time, okay, to give birth to this thing. So this is the most high-level requirement. Now there's another requirement, which is that Sensorica and WeShare are partners to create this thing. Okay, so they're the main organizations behind it. And this is a matter of trust with the partners that actually fund us, Okay, so these people that give us the money, they came to us because they see that these two organizations, these two networks, Sensorica and WeShare, have a lot of energy, have a lot of enthusiasm, but more importantly than that, they do have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and know-how about the collaborative economy. So we're the trusted entities, and from our discussions to our partners, they see Sensorica and WeShare as the main organizations responsible for this thing. Okay. And there is another requirement which is also part of trust, and it's part of the it's a point of contact. So who are our partners that fund this project are going to look at and make responsible and make a call when something goes wrong, when something goes well. And the idea is that this is TB and Alex, so it's myself and Alex from WeShare. Okay, for now. So these are the fixed points that we have to work with. Okay. Now, we're open organizations, and so there was other questions that came out in this discussion. Well, there's this mother organization that holds the funding, and it is responsible for executing this project, which is giving birth to this thing, which is the Low Voice ecosystem, and in doing so, stimulating the collaborative economy, creating an attractor so that the collaborative economy can precipitate faster in Montreal, around and throughout Canada. There is this mother organization, and then the project gets executed by people who already operate or are part of the Sensorica and WeShare network, and also other people that might come from other organizations that are also very trusted, that have a lot of experience in the collaborative economy, and other local people, most of them from Verdun, that want to be involved in this project. And when we say that Sensorica and WeShare are open organizations, anybody can come and participate in projects, and we're very open to suggestions. We're very open to learn new things and to change the ways we do things. But there's a misperception there, okay, that often comes in the discussions and somewhat appeared in our discussion. So what happens if another organization comes and they have different plans and they want to implement this thing or shape this thing that we want to give birth to in a different way? Okay, so how open is this project? It is open for participation. What are the filtering mechanisms? What do we mean by being open? And how open is it to change its course and do something else with the project? Okay. So here again, we're gonna stay top level. We're not going to go into details of the rules and how things should be done, but the main top level requirement here is this: we are starting from something. Okay, so this is an open project in the sense that yes, we can get a lot of input, and we work with other people from other organizations that know better in different domains. But it has to be understood that this is not a tabula rasa approach to the collaborative economy. We're not just starting from scratch, starting to brainstorm about what the collaborative or philosophize about the collaborative economy and about its IT infrastructure and about its governance and about its methodologies and about everything else, right? We cannot put everything into question, okay? Sensorica and WeShare have been trusted to do this project because they are already sitting on something. Sensorica has 7.5 years experience when it comes to commons-based peer production. And WeShare has, if we talk about WeShare Global, has more than 6.5 years experience as a decentralized network that connects different open initiatives and teaches and communicates and generates vision about how the world is evolving, how the world is changing. So we are trusted organizations, and we bring something to the table. And this is our starting point. Okay, so there is no, I think there is, there should not be any debate beyond that. Okay, this is what we're starting to work with. When it comes to economic activity, well, Sensorica's OVN model, with Sensorica's infrastructure, with Sensorica's governance around it, and with Sensorica's methodologies of work, which are not perfect, but this is our starting point. Okay, and we cannot question that. And the whole ecosystem that is created around the Voice project should acknowledge the experience and the fact that Sensorica exists for the past 7.5 years. And things are the way they are in Sensorica for a reason. Okay, so this is a starting point. It doesn't mean that we cannot improve this, and in fact, this is our goal, because this project is also an opportunity for Sensorica to polish its governance, to polish its IT infrastructure, to polish its methodologies, to formalize the whole model better, okay, so that it can become scalable and people can copy it and apply it in other contexts. And the same thing for WeShare. Okay, I speak more about Sensorica because I see myself more as a Sensorican, and I will act as a Sensorican within this project, but the same thing can be said about WeShare. WeShare has a set of rules. WeShare has methodologies of work. And this is a set of practices that have been filtered throughout 6.5 years from experimentation in different cities around the world. Because WeShare is a network, and WeShare connectors, they come together and exchange experiences. Okay, so we are starting with something already, and this is the starting point of the Verdun project, and there is no point in debating this base. Okay, there is no point of other organizations coming and derailing everything because they think what Sensorica is doing and what WeShare is doing, it's absolutely no sense. Okay, that should not be accepted. Okay, but we are open as an organization. Okay, we need to acknowledge that there are some assets. We're sitting on some assets here. We're sitting on some experience. We're sitting on some knowledge. Okay, and there is some people in these organizations that really understand the inside outs about the collaborative economy. It's still an evolving field. It is a developing field, and these individuals should not be seen as gods, but they should be seen as experts. Okay, and the structures and practices and processes that these two organizations bring to the table, they should be taken seriously. Okay, and they should be seen as the starting point, with the opening later, okay, to improve all these things. Okay, so how much openness is there downstream from this mother organization for other partners to come in and propose and impose perhaps their own ways of doing things? Okay, well, in the beginning there is not too much openness for these organizations to come and propose and impose other things. Okay, we have a budget, and we are responsible for doing whatever we think it's best for this project to succeed. Therefore, we come with our best knowledge and best practices and put this on the table, and this is our starting point because this is what we know best. Okay, so in the first year, 2 or 3 years throughout this project, the mother organization and as acting bodies within it, Sensorica and WeShare, will more or less dictate the structure, will dictate the governance, will dictate the methodologies, will dictate the IT infrastructure. Okay, and slowly, as people get used to these things, as people get to taste them, to work with them, as they start to understand what everything means, And as these groups that are forming, these cells, these open spaces and their communities, okay, and the entire ecosystem, as it is forming and becoming more mature, then slowly this mother organization should give some slack, okay, to innovation. Okay, now we're mature. Now we understand. Now I understand why this was like that in the beginning from Sensorica and from WeShare. Now I understand what these guys, Sensorica and WeShare, were saying, and it starts to make sense. But you know, we see a problem. Okay, let's sit down at the table and see if we can bring a better solution. Okay, but the whole point is this: is that openness doesn't mean that we get the funding, we start the project, and then we open it up for partners to come and participate in this ecosystem, and everybody comes with their own vision of the world, of their own ideas about the economy and about currencies and about this and about that, and want to impose their views and their things into the project. So we do have a starting point, and we're trusted for that. This is why Sensorica and WeShare have been chosen for this project and have been trusted for this project. It's because we have built something solid, something that is recognized throughout the world. Okay, and the very reason that we have this project is because whatever Sensorica is doing is good, and whatever WeShare is doing is good. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's good, and it's probably better than anything else out there. Okay, but this thing is moving and this thing is evolving, so there will be a lot of a room for innovation as the thing that we are giving birth to becomes more mature, as people inside learn how to work together and become more comfortable in these new spaces and in this new paradigm of the collaborative economy. So these were I think these were the most important things that I wanted to communicate about this project that can inform everybody. And from here, I think we need to discuss more about general stuff and identify more questions and misunderstandings. We have to make sure that everybody kind of gets it, what we're trying to build, and what is the philosophy behind it. And only after we can go and drill down into legal structure and governance. Okay, for example, what is the governance of this new ecosystem that we're creating? Okay, well, we kind of have an answer now. This is a step below. We kind of have an answer. So it's going to be a pretty good blend between WeShare's governance and Sensorica's governance and rules. Okay, we're going to take best practices, probably sit on the table. What are your problems? What are, you know, how did you solve it? What was the rule that, you know what I'm saying, that avoided the organization some problems or that corrected the problem? So we're going to sit down and try to blend the best that we have about norms and formal rules for these two organizations. So we have a starting point to work with. Okay, that needs to be refined. And when we think about this organization down below, so we have the mother organization and this thing that we create. Okay, this thing that we create, which is like 5 cells connected by IT infrastructure and governance. You know, they have to work hand in hand. This is an ecosystem that is meant to be open. It's meant to allow other organizations to bind in. What is the legal structure of these things? So we spoke about governance. What is the legal structure? How does this ecosystem present or represents itself legally? Again, I think we have some examples from best practices of Sensorica that could be a starting point, and then we can among ourselves debate a little bit about these things. But you know, we do have a starting point. We can't reconsider everything and start from scratch. Okay, there is no time for that, and I think this is not a good approach. Trying to think about some other important things here that were said. Well, there was a question that was brought up about about conflict management within this mother organization, and about risk management. I think we need to discuss these things very clearly and pretty soon. Yeah. Well, that's it for now. I think that's the main thing I wanted to communicate, and we'll continue to discuss. Please comment on this video if you have other questions, and we'll continue to discuss asynchronously until the next big meeting between Sensorica and Wisher. Thanks.